So behind any show, on any screen, there's an entire economic infrastructure at work. And no person has had a bigger hand in shaping it than Linda Yaccarino. As chairman of advertising and partnerships at NBCUniversal, Linda is responsible for managing over $10 billion in revenue annually and stewarding the company's industry-leading portfolio of linear networks, digital platforms, distribution partnerships, and client relationships. Linda, with the help of her 1,500-person team, I'm very envious, connects established and emerging brands to hundreds of millions of viewers, driving economic impact for not just her company, but for entire industries. So please welcome to the stage, Linda Yaccarino. So congratulations on the acquisition of Sky. And of course we can assume that there are numerous commercial reasons why this is good for NBCUniversal. But what value do you think this actually brings to agency strategists, so people in this room?
We're so excited about, which is now just about a year in. We're about a month away from our year anniversary of acquiring Sky. But one of the most reasons, or the most exciting reasons that fueled our interest in Sky is if you think about Comcast, NBCUniversal, pre-Sky, was our scale that we were able to enjoy together, for all of you in this room, local, tremendous scale between Comcast and NBC, whether it's our local stations that we own for broadcast, our Telemundo stations, or our local cable activities. But then the national scale that we have, that I think hopefully that video communicated. But then what we needed to do as the world becomes a global marketplace for consumers, we needed to go global. And Sky was the perfect opportunity to immediately gain scale in all of Europe and the many other markets that their assets are in. That being said, when we were able to take a very like-minded company, they were really just a little smaller version of Comcast NBCU, very dedicated to the development and distribution of premium content. And that's what made the commonality so great between our two companies and has made the merger of the two companies completely seamless and exciting. But we were able to say, okay, if we can combine the content for that bigger scale globally, and we were able to combine it with our collective data capabilities, and then have this distribution offering to all of our clients, you in this room, then we would be able to have a very unique offering where there is no surrogate globally right now in terms of immediate premium content in a commercialized environment. And that's really what we've been working on for the last year, is making it a seamless offering to you, global marketers in the room, to be able to take advantage of it now for the first time.
So, I say this because I've spent my career kind of going from big network agencies to kind of, I've literally been the one person in the department as well. And so I sometimes am quite sensitive to I guess, working with organizations that seem to have huge scale. And so just thinking about kind of the different size clients and agencies in the room, like what kind of benefit does this scale bring?
Well, it's a really great question, and if I dare say, and don't quote or tweet this, I'm gonna get in trouble in a second for saying this, but one of the things I say often, which I used to say about Comcast NBCUniversal, and now I say Comcast NBCUniversal Sky, the most exciting thing about our company is how gigantic it is. But it's also the most daunting part of my job, is how gigantic it is. So my singular job is to make it easier for all of you to do business with us. And what we've really tried to do, certainly once we brought the company together, I think we were probably getting good at it 4 or 5 years ago, of this one portfolio strategy, because it didn't make sense for all of you to think about NBCU at that time as Bravo, as E, as Telemundo, as Broadcast Prime, as sports, all different. As the world was coming together, it was really important to coalesce everything together and say you could think of us as one communication platform. So what did that mean? That meant if we were going to do it, obviously we needed to bring people together. But also we had to invest in technology to make as automated as television can be, platforms that made it easier to do commerce or conduct commerce together. We're not as great as we have to be, but we're getting better at that. So it specifically in the last couple of years, and I think we'll get to probably direct-to-consumer brands, but our goal in the last bunch of years as we bring all of those companies together and therefore inventory and opportunities was to really take a look and democratize our offerings, or democratize television, as we say inside the company, to make the barriers of entry that was kind of a bad perception of our company, that we were either too big or too hard to do business with. And I think it's not lost on me, or too big, too hard, too expensive to do business with. And that really is in fact not the case. If we can surface and mobilize all of our inventory in the right way, based on the audiences or the outcomes you need, we got a lot of stuff that we can offer you. So really that's the philosophy that's been driving all of the change you're seeing at NBCU.
So, thank you. I have to admit, and it's a confession, I've occasionally used media owners to just do some of my work.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily been...
I don't know, we didn't talk about that. How am I doing so far?
Good. So I think one of the things that interests me, again, kind of, because I actually also work on global brands,
Yeah.
so it's very selfish. But if I need to understand consumers across borders, now I've got access to you and your global scale, kind of how can you help me better understand people globally?
Well, again, I'll go back to the coalescing of our teams. So what we've put together right now, and very grateful, we've started to conduct some business, a sales team, or let's say a team of subject matter experts that are taking a look at our collective viewers or consumers. That includes Sky and all of Comcast and NBCU inventory. So we pay a lot of attention to the platform. We talk a lot about our company, screen agnostic, platform specific. So then when you're able to say, okay, what is this behavior that the consumer demonstrates globally, it really surfaces a really different picture and great opportunities. So there's data, for Sky. Sky's been in the streaming business for over 5 years. We're learning a lot of stuff from them. As a matter of fact, that team has moved to the US to launch our new streaming platform next spring, Peacock, so we're learning a lot about their consumers. They were actually more advanced than NBCU was in what their data or digital capabilities were, and they called it AdSmart. And a year ago, we went over there. It was actually early December for an integration meeting, and I literally was like, you guys are so much more advanced. Can we borrow/steal that? And within about 2 months, all of our whole business, it used to be called the Audience Studio, became AdSmart, because they were a lot better and a lot more mature in their business of knowing consumer behavior. So we're still learning. We're still developing our automated platform to get better, smarter, really quicker about our offerings to many of you in the room. But we look at data today as table stakes, to your question. So we invite you to come in. How does, I'll say it silly, how does a family interact with all of our brands? Because it's a unique thing that NBC and Sky is. How do they interact with everything from America's Got Talent to similar programs that exist in Europe? So we're able to say, okay, and I just use families as an example because it's an easy kind of softball or low-hanging fruit. It's a sweet spot for both our companies. But how are we able to craft something that speaks to what that particular consumer in that particular moment or life cycle is, and how do we surface our inventory best to deliver to you?
So looking at the history over the past 100 years, literally from kind of radio all the way to streaming. So as a broadcast network and I guess now a tech platform company, what has NBCUniversal learned about people and how they engage with content? So you just referenced some of that. It'd be really good to share some of the things that people might find.
You know, it's really interesting when you ask a question like that about NBCU, you know, radio to streaming. When you talk about radio, you wouldn't think, okay, groundbreaking innovators today, but our company's over 90 years old, and back then, first radio broadcast, first advertising commercial, first color broadcast when it came to television was all at a version of what NBCUniversal is today. So back then, groundbreaking, innovative, really listening, no pun intended with the radio, but we knew from day one that if we didn't deliver to the consumer what they were looking for, that we weren't going to be around too long. So that's what's led, really interesting to, you know, if you think first came radio, then came broadcast television, then came cable television, and now streaming. I don't think I missed a platform, but I may have because it could have been invented since we started this morning. So you really have to stay closely in tune to consumer behavior. And it's actually one of our biggest opportunities with Peacock, the streaming platform that's ad supported, but really frustrating for us because we are all trying to work together to reinvent how we do business, right, together from legacy models, which is really something that is number one on our priority list. So from radio to streaming, we have to keep up with the consumer behavior. And when content is at the heart center of our company, how do you serve it up on what screen? What context is it in and served up? And then how do you take advantage of all those different brands that you saw? So if I could give you a quick example, just recently, you know, one of the very fortunate pieces of content or licensing deals that NBCUniversal has happens to be with the NFL. And we all know that Sunday Night Football for the past 7 or 8 years, and it looks like 4 or 5 weeks into the season, will be the most dominant programming offering there is today. But you know what, that's not enough, right? Even though the millions and millions of people it reached, it's not enough. So we just did a great innovative deal with Procter & Gamble. It was actually, I don't know if you saw it, but I should share it. Anyone who wants it, we'll share it with you because it's great. And it was in partnership with Procter & Gamble, the NFL, and NBCUniversal. I say the NFL because Procter took a really different definition of the NFL, and it was called not for laundry. And the whole riff was Sunday night is not for laundry anymore, and they were using it, they were moving it to Tuesday nights. They didn't want people not watching the game. And then we were like, hey, wait a minute. Well, it was a whole RFP pitch, but we were like, our company is so ready and able because of our scale to respond. So we're like, you can't move it to Tuesday. That's when The Voice is on. And Gwen Stefani from The Voice, they're like, hey, wait a minute. Assuming she does laundry at all, but that, hey, you can't move laundry to Tuesday night. So from Sunday Night Football to Tuesday with The Voice to Monday nights with WWE, Hulk Hogan was on, to the Housewives. So expansive across all of our screens. It's a whole fourth quarter, huge initiative across our company, but think about it. Custom content on every single network, looks different on every single network. We were even able to bring Days of Our Lives, our soap opera in, and had their talent do it, which was hilarious. But then we said, and this will be said all the time because it's easy to think just within the walls that I say of 30 Rock. We know we can offer many of you a lot of stuff, a lot of things, but it's really not everything you need. So we invited in Twitter, Snap, YouTube as part of the distribution process and custom content that jumped on board. But that wasn't even the best thing. The best thing was, after the first week, it was, I got a lot of, in the Twitterverse, a lot of activity. Budweiser reached out and said, we want to customize some of our content in the following football game, which I think was a Saints game. We had custom content that they jumped in on the NFL Not for Laundry campaign too. So I think that was one of the most exciting things that's happening, that almost in real time, but customizing content on every screen for every brand, that this is the way you deliver to what the consumer expects today. and that's a personalized experience that speaks to them.
Yeah.
So not that easy to do, but didn't take that long. So I think I talk about that as we're trying our philosophy for all of you to think about NBCU in that way.
Makes sense. And it's interesting, as you were talking, and actually I struggled even when I was trying to write the introduction to you, because I was kind of like, hold on, what is NBCUniversal? And is it a platform, network, media properties? And it feels like there is a blurring of the distinction between all of these. But thinking about that, what's changed in people's relationship, therefore, with media?
Well, to my comment a couple of minutes ago was about the expectation of the consumer. And what we believe is that their relationship with their media distributors, publishers, however they would refer to their networks or their content providers, are probably quite similar to the way you think about your consumers today or your clients' consumers. And they expect it completely personalized and curated to their tastes. So being a company that has a legacy of television that was able to actually, kind of almost rest on our laurels for many, many decades, because you just, it's really the negative definition of broadcast, right? Then there was cable, which was much more niche and personalized. But we know today, no matter what content, down to the show, right? Now down to the commercials in the show, needs to be completely customized and personalized. So we think about the development of our content in a different way, but really what's important for us is the change in what we do is, I just had this urge to take off my glasses to be very serious, to tell you what is a new, that's severe, a new philosophy at our company is that we can't do that without all of you. So we invite you in a process much more upstream than we could. Years ago there was always a fear from the creators that the marketers were going to come in and force something that was very inauthentic, right? And whoever it was, Jack Pearson from Milo from This Is Us was going to have to hold a bottle of a brand of soda and say this tastes really great, chug, 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 and that was going to violate the authenticity of their content. So I think over time, the shows table stakes got much more open to incorporating brands in an authentic way, because the consumer actually appreciates that. And actually you, on behalf of your brands, and you're really the authenticity experts and arbiters of that, we can't do it without you. And I talked about that Tide and then Budweiser across all our brands. Seat at the creative table. Showrunners in the room, on the phone. And at NBCU, we can't pull it off, or think we're going to endure another 90 years if we weren't aware of delivering our content now in a different way to consumers.
So, and actually, what you just talked about kind of hit on something, I guess, I've sort of sometimes in the back of my head felt that I'm talking to a salesperson.
Yeah, you can say it.
And
a lot of them.
In one way, I have one objective, and I'm very conscious that their objective is to obviously maximise revenue and bring in the most that they can. But in the worst case scenario, it felt that they might act as a bit of a firewall between me and I guess the content creators, the people I really want to work with and help create some of these programs with. But what do you do to kind of mitigate some of those?
Well, it's exactly what I was just talking about, is that the invitation to be in the room more upstream. I would argue back a little bit at you, in a very polite way at this hour of the morning, that the networks, let's call them, old-fashioned linear networks, acting as a firewall. So I would say the culture back then was, I have The Voice, I'm making this up, I have 20 spots in it, I'm the only one that has it, how much do you want? So that's what created that firewall, was this precious feeling that this is perishable inventory that I have. But in a world of fragmentation and competition, there is a realization or an education that, we ain't all that, okay? So check the box on that. But the argue part or debate is in television, in that kind of culture for a long time, the agencies also, your job was to act as the firewall between the networks or the publishers and your clients. So that created actually, I think, the way I think about it is just a bigger distance, an unnecessary distance between what you were trying to accomplish on behalf of the client and what we were trying as the content creators and distributors, what we were trying to deliver to our audience, viewers at that time as the best piece of content. And when we all learned a lot and started coming together, it was that we were actually trying to accomplish this same thing. Tell our stories in an authentic way to maximize emotion that inspires action. Buy my product, watch my show. And if done right, and if knowing each other and having a relationship, then the scariness is kind of out of it. Oh, the big bad ad guy is coming into the big bad, diva producer, and we're not going to meet in the middle anywhere. So I have never been more optimistic than I have in the past, and I actually have more, kind of examples or case studies to talk about that have never been happening before. Who would ever thunk that, number one, a 45-year-old show like Saturday Night Live being at the helm of somebody like comedy gold genius Lorne Michaels would be in a meeting or on the phone or in contact with advertisers. He probably never thought about it either. He used to be like, Linda, what are you doing here? So there's an education that's been going on, but it's by the demand of the consumer. So every year at NBCU, we have a showrunner meeting where we have advertisers come and talk. What are they trying to accomplish? RFPs that we respond on, we go to you for help, we bring them in. So that's getting more and more often. I wish it was more at scale than it is, but it takes a lot of people on your side and on our side. Right now it's still I would say a custom heavy lift. But I would say where we know what we have to do.
I want to touch on it very briefly on measurement and accountability. We know that kind of it's imperative today. Traditionally, kind of, I guess, you've been very good at looking at kind of the efficiency and so, have we hit the right people the right number of times, all that sort of stuff. But how are you helping us understand kind of the effectiveness of what we do?
Yeah. Well, we're helping as best we can. We need your help too, because and this is for many of you. Oops. Oh well. Just hope I remember everything on the cards. That we are hamstrung or handcuffed by legacy metrics today that run the industry and currency that have nothing to do with effectiveness. It's a guess of how many people might have watched a show. Literally yesterday was the first day that C3 ratings were delivered for primetime shows for the new season that's in its 5th week. I think that says it all. I don't need to go on, right? The illogical nature of that in an always-on, on-demand, real-time world that we live in. Like, ridiculous. Okay, but that doesn't mean I'm not naive to think that there's value in a verified currency and metric, right? I got that, got it. But to your point of effectiveness, I think we have to redefine what the report cards are or benchmarks. Our company is moving full steam ahead, and you can expect to hear this out of us almost immediately, is that we're going towards all audiences, away almost completely from an age gender split, because not really sure that scratches the surface. So you'll see that automation data will deliver those numbers and metrics that you need. But the KPIs have to be redefined, and I think they're all going to be largely custom. It's not going to be a one-size-fits-all or paint it with a wide brush. So everything from a custom consumer segment to could be a reach guarantee. NBCUniversal is fully prepared to have those conversations. But let's talk about what your KPIs that are important and what delivers a business purpose to marketers. Because a GRP, I'm not quite sure what business purpose it serves. It doesn't serve NBCUniversal at all. In a world where a C3 was designed over a decade ago to make up for DVR viewing. I said it, DVR, right? DVR viewing within 3 days, that back then got viewers back to like 100%. That's what we're doing. So that's why, you know, C-Flight was born, the first all-screen measurement, but we're moving much more past that, but we need your help in terms of what are you trying to achieve? Is it reach? Got it. Well, here's your plan. Is it some type of outcome that is search results, insurance policy inquiries, whatever it is, let's talk about that. That's what's gonna collectively grow both our businesses. They'll take the fat out of television so you'll be more efficient and more effective, and then we have other stuff to sell to other people.
So I'm an old man. So I'm always moaning about people.
My hair is really
low
not
attention.
this color, so
So to help everyone, if there was one thing that people were going to take away, or perhaps tweet, what would it be that you'd leave them with today?
Oh gosh, if there's one thing. I don't want to sound too I don't know, cliche or we know that we can't do it without all of you in this room. You know, when we used to, again, be so precious about just the spots that we have. I'll give you a good example, so it's not like really one thing. I had a lot of caffeine, so so Peacock that we're launching in the spring. Unique, ad-supported. Not pushing you guys out with subscription, inviting you back in. But when I say we can't do it without you, it is the first time in a really long time that there's a platform that has so much premium content that has no legacy anything. You have to say, okay, but this was your CPM you had last year. What is the, none of that exists. And we don't think about, I urge you, don't think about your advertising on the platform in the legacy nature of time only, a 6, a 15, a 30, a 60. Let's just make it right and tell our stories together. We're no legacy, there's no preconceived notion of what that future of advertising looks like. And we've just started maybe 2 weeks coming to see many of your teams in this room and many marketers. And we're going in and saying, we want you to tell us, right? Tell us how you'd like to see the ad-supported come to life. So what does the future of advertising really look like? Because we, with Peacock, can be the parents of the rebirth of advertising and the reinvention of advertising. And our whole conversation is that we can't do it alone. So I think we could also have some fun in the process. So that's what I leave you with, not one thing, but partnership, if I had to say one word.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.